It is Sunday, the 26th of August 2018. Good evening and welcome. This is Weekend Primetime News here on News First. I'm Shahin Jarampati. Let's start off a look at tonight's headlines.
Kandy Asala Mahaperahara held with much pageantry. Minister Faiza Mustafa expresses his views on the delimitation report not being passed in Parliament. 12 people dead in the past 24 hours due to accidents. Julie Bishop resigns as Australia's foreign minister.
Well, in your top story this evening, a shooting in the Juma Junction in Maligawatta has claimed the life of a 30-year-old woman. According to the police, the shooting had taken place around 6:30 in the evening. The preliminary investigations has revealed that two unidentified gunmen had opened fire on the woman and fled. The Maligawatta police are conducting investigations into the incident. Well, moving on to more local news, the final Randoli Perahara of the historic temple of the sacred tooth relic concluded with much pomp and pageantry last evening. President Maithripala Sirisena also viewed the procession.
The final Perahara commenced at the auspicious time of 7:58 last evening. The procession, which began at the temple, toured the Dalada Vidya, the Yatinuara Vidya and the Kande Vidya and D.S. Senanayaka Street. Local and foreign devotees arrived in Kandy to witness the historic Perahara celebrations. While around 70 elephants took part in the Perahara, it was made colourful by several dance items. The Nadungamu at Tasker had the privilege to carry the receptacle of the sacred tooth relic. The water cutting ceremony or the Diya Kapima ceremony of the four great Devalayas, the Natha, Vishnu, Katharagama and Patini Devalayas, were carried out following the Perahara early this morning. The shaman of the Devalayas carried out the religious ceremony. The Perahara to carry back the sacred receptacle of the temple of the sacred tooth relic from the Askiri Gedige temple was held this afternoon. The receptacle was carried by the Singharaja elephant of the Dalada temple. The epistle of the successful conclusion of the 10-day-long Perahara activities was handed over to the President by the Diyavadana Nilame, Nilanka Dala and the Basnayaka Nilames. The event was held at the President's official residence in Kandy.
12 people have died and 8 others injured in several accidents that happened during the past 24 hours.
2 people were killed in an accident that took place along the Habaranamin area main road this morning. A van travelling from Nuwarelia to Kadurwela had veered off the road and hit a tree after the driver fell asleep at the wheel. The deceased were 23-year-old residents of the Kadurwela area. 4 people who were injured are currently receiving treatment at the ICU of the Polonnaruwa hospital. 2 people were killed when a motorbike collided onto a private bus in the Koswati area along the Ambilipitiya Ratnapura main road. The deceased were 30 years and 19 years of age and were residents of Angunakola Palasa. The driver of the bus has been arrested and he is due to be produced before the Ambilipitiya Magistrates Court. A 3-wheeler had collided onto a train plying from Vaunia to Colombo early this morning, claiming the life of 1 person. The accident had occurred at the Telangapatha railway crossing in the Vanavasala area in Kalaniya. 2 people who were injured have been admitted to the National Hospital. A lorry had veered off the road and collided onto another lorry in the Veherakala area along the Chilao Anamaduwa main road. 4 people who were injured have been admitted to the Chilao hospital. The lorry that met with the accident had been carrying beef at the time of the incident.
And up next is our investigative segment, Action TV. The Sri Lanka Electricity Act clearly indicates that the Public Utilities Commission's approval is mandatory for the Ceylon Electricity Board to make spot purchases of power from the private sector. Despite the existence of such a clause, the CEB on the 6th of April signed a 3-year agreement with a privately owned power plant in Ambilipitiya, completely swatting away the regulatory powers of the Public Utilities Commission. Last Sunday, Action TV pointed out how the Secretary to the Subject Ministry had in fact addressed a letter to the Secretary to the President dated the 6th of this month with false information in an attempt to validate the aforementioned agreement, which was reached in contravention to the provisions of the Sri Lanka Electricity Act. The Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy in fact writes his letter to the Secretary to the President 4 months after the agreement was signed with the privately owned power plant in Ambalipitia. However, the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy is requesting the Secretary to the President to seek the approval of the Public Utilities Commission through the National Economic Council to reach agreements to purchase power from 3 private power stations, including the one in Ambalipitia. On the 18th of July, the Minister of Power and Renewable Energy had submitted this letter to the Cabinet of Ministers, which is more or less similar to the plot indicated in the letter addressed to the Secretary to the President by the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. The letter submitted to the Cabinet of Ministers has been approved. Through this letter, which can clearly be considered as a form of deception, several amendments are to be included into the Sri Lanka Electricity Act in the future. What will be the consequences for the power consumers of this country and the Public Utilities Commission? More on Action TV tomorrow. Well, just a look back at our top story this evening. A shooting in the Jumma Junction in Maligawata has killed a 30-year-old woman. Now, as reported earlier, according to the police, the shooting had taken place around 6:30 this evening. Now, the preliminary investigations have revealed that 2 unidentified gunmen had opened fire on the woman before fleeing. Now, the Maligawata police have in fact said that they are conducting investigations into the incident. Well, we are awaiting more details on that story, and as and when we get it, we will report them to you as and when we get it. For the time being, let's move on to a quick commercial break. Stay with News First.
Colombo Defense Seminar 2018 on security in an era of global disruptions, democratic transformation and implications on security and more topics with the participation of security experts from worldwide on the 30th and 31st of August at BMICH, organized by Sri Lanka Army.
Welcome back to the news. Dr. Sarath Amunugama, the Minister of Science and Technology, says the public money is being wasted and it needs to be investigated. Now, he was speaking at an event in Colombo this morning.
How do you work better in a government office? How do you work better in a corporate office? How do you improve all these huge state corporations that we have? Sri Lanka, I think, is a laboratory, because we need experiments to see how these very inefficient giants can be at least brought into moderate efficiency. We are a country with so much of public money being wasted, particularly through the state sector. You have to investigate the state sector. Why is there so much waste? Why is so much of money which is collected from the taxpayer being wasted due to inefficiency, to incompetence and lack of basic management skills? This is a big challenge for all our business schools. The business schools must tackle the question of incompetence, corruption, mismanagement and waste in the state sector in Sri Lanka. Otherwise we can't move forward.
He himself is not sure how the efficiency can be improved. The government is not in a position to control even those institutions under their own purview to improve their standards. The politicians are not opening their eyes as to what is happening in the state institutions. There is corruption because some of the politicians are also corrupt. Instead of repeatedly stating that the state-owned enterprises are underperforming, it is time that you take some action.
Well, Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva says the Palali Airport will be upgraded with 1,600 million rupees. He made these remarks at the annual Academic Awards of the Asian Aviation Centre held in Colombo.
Now we are going to improve the Palali Airport. Just now, last week I signed a joint cabinet paper with the Honourable Prime Minister and Honourable Minister of Tourism, providing 1,600 million to upgrade the Palali Airport. The industry also should grow. Otherwise, what is the use of producing technicians? Unless there are MROs and all that, unless we can get aircraft to come here for maintenance, etc. Because the few aircraft we have, which we own, is not sufficient. So therefore, we have to make way for the new investment to come in this area. That is why we thought it fit to enter into an agreement with the Indian Airport Authority to develop Mattala Airport, to bring more business, because it is just idling. We are running at a loss. Not that we are selling it, we are trying to come into a partnership with the Indian Airport Authority and run that place profitably.
Today this government has given the Ambathuda harbour to China, Mattala Airport to India. Palali is the most important base. No, it's not sold. It is given on 99 years. 99 years lease is almost like sold, because now Mr. Vikramasinghe is not going to live. Malik Samara is definitely not going to live. Prime Minister or the President is not going to live. What will happen to the future generation of this country? The country is at loss. The future generation will curse the government that came into power, that has leased out everything. This is not the version of Nimal Siripala de Silva. This is a clear version of Malik Ranil combination. They are coming out with this and he is putting it out. Why are they hiding the facts? Let them come out and tell the truth. Let the people decide whether this should be given or not. Either you make it or leave it. The problem is these people can't make it. They have only messed it up.
Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government Faiza Mustafa commented on the recent defeat of the Delimitation Committee report in Parliament.
And in terms of the Act, I have to present the delimitation report to Parliament. This mechanism was brought about by a discussion with minority parties, which included Rauf Hakim, where they said they would vote for the bill only if, firstly, if the provincial council elections had a 50-50 mechanism, 50% based on seats and 50% on PR. So in this instance, I state the allegation made that I defeated a committee appointed by me is incorrect. The fact remains that this committee is an independent committee appointed by His Excellency the President, and every member of Parliament is entitled to agree or disagree with the report. And if a member of Parliament feels that they are in disagreement, the consequence would be that if this delimitation report is not approved by 2/3, there is a committee headed by the Prime Minister and 4 others. In terms of the request made by Honorable Rauf Hakim and other minority parties, that they would only vote for the bill if this provision was included. Therefore, I respectfully state that no allegation can be made against me that I voted for something which was brought about by me. This is a delimitation report and it was voted against because the members of Parliament thought that this report is flawed and that it needs an appellate process. Also, certain quarters have made allegations that I have violated the party and has voted against. I wish to place on record the SLFP government group at a meeting headed by His Excellency the President discussed this matter, and we decided to vote against this because this report had flaws and it had certain issues which the minority communities were concerned about. As Sri Lanka Freedom Party is a minority concerned party, we decided to oppose it and permit the appellate process. එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය විරුද්ධව කියලා තියෙන්නේ අපි මේකට විරුද්ධයි අපි දූෂිත මනාපක්‍රමයට යා යුතුයි කියන එක තමයි එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ මතය. ඒ නිසා මනාපක්‍රමය මේ රටට නොසුදුසුයි කියන එකත් මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ වගකීමකින් ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Well, the Delimitation Committee report, essential for conducting the provincial council elections, was defeated in Parliament on the 24th of this month. The general public, however, hoped that parliamentarians would use their vote in this crucial vote to fulfill their public mandate. What are the implications that this defeat that cost millions of public funds would have on the people? News First takes a deeper look.
We informed all 225 MPs through a letter sent to their private addresses asking them for proposals. We informed all provincial councillors, ministers, governors and secretaries to submit their proposals on this. We informed the secretaries of 70 registered political parties. We asked them to give us their proposals in writing or to speak to us about it. 25 public gatherings were organised in all 25 districts. The politicians of these areas, members of the civil society or anyone else could have given their opinion here. We received 648 proposals. We focused on these proposals when preparing the report. The Act states that this must be submitted in 4 months. We spent about 16 million rupees for this. The new government was sworn in 2015 on a platform of fighting corruption, both in governance and the electoral process. As a government, we are prepared to follow the law and the law related to elections. We have introduced a new election system, and under this, we hope to follow good governance. We hope to implement this system to the letter, and I believe everyone will support this. One of the key pledges made by the government was to introduce a clean and fair electoral system that would be an alternative to the present system, one that is seen to be corrupt and a colossal waste of money. As promised by the committee, the report was handed over to Minister Faiza Mustafa in February this year. It took the past 6 months for this report to be finally taken up for a parliamentary vote last week. To pass this bill in Parliament, a 2/3 majority was a requirement. Instead, all 139 members present in the chamber voted against it. It is a shocking indictment on this government's attitude towards the people of this country that the very minister presenting the bill to Parliament voted against it. 80 MPs of the 225 elected members of Parliament were not even present in the chamber for the vote. Even the JVP abstained from voting. The TNA and other minority parties voted against the report. Subject Minister Faiza Mustafa said in question the public have is, was this the plan all along? More questions beg answers. Why did the government delay the passage of this important report for so long at the cost of millions of public funds, only to resoundingly defeat it in the chamber? If there were questions and concerns, why weren't the terms of reference given to the committee reviewed and changed accordingly so that any concerns would have been addressed adequately before the report was submitted to Parliament? Isn't it obvious that politicians from both sides of the aisle come together to protect the status quo and deny the people justice? It is a crying shame that the government, and in fact politicians from all sides, rush to sign mysterious trade agreements with other nations, buy exorbitantly priced chairs for themselves, give themselves duty-free permits and revise their own salaries and allowances, but act in a totally different manner when it comes to the passage of a critically important piece of legislation. These same politicians show scant disregard for the public trust placed in them. The games politicians play is reverberating across the voter base. The chairman of the Elections Commission, speaking on the Patikada program, stated that the lack of trust young people have in the political system in general is seen by a worrying drop in voter registration. One may conclude that the passage of the delimitation report and its defeat in Parliament is a classic example of politicians from all sides working together to dupe the public and continue a system that will give them the best chance of surviving at any cost. These thoughts were reflected by Rohan Hettiarachchi, the Executive Director of PAFRL. We are faced with another postponement of the election with this defeat. The government as well as political parties should have one stance, that the election will be held under the new system. By now we have seen a majority of politicians stating outside parliament that the election will be held under the old system and not the new system. If the election is to be held under the old system, there is no point in appointing a review committee. It is just a waste of time.
Views were also expressed in the political arena about the delimitation report being rejected in Parliament.
The majority of the 16 who left the parliament were appointed from the national list. They are the ones who were rejected by the people and brought back to the parliament with the support of the president. They are the jokers who are commenting about the delimitation report and urging others to resign from their positions. My opinion is that the United People's Freedom Alliance and the United National Party did what they think is right by voting against the report.
A group was looking for a change, but what has happened today? The ones who were looking for change has come into terms with the reality. They have realized the truth and have understood about the mudslinging. How is this government trying to hold elections? By postponing them. You saw how the delimitation committee report was presented in Parliament. For the first time in Sri Lanka, the minister who presented the report voted against it. The minister who spent so much time on that by holding discussions and debates rejected it. Why did he bring it in the first place then? We agree with the first fact that they prepared the relevant delimitation report after establishing a new electoral system. We as a party voted in favour of it, but the government secretly made arrangements to reject the report prepared by them. Trying to delay the elections by ignoring this is a conspiracy.
The newly renovated Run Vienna, or the golden canopy of the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic, was declared open under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
The head of state received blessings from the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic this morning. The newly renovated Run Vienna, with a cost of 45 million rupees, was then declared open by the president. The golden canopy was first granted to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic by former President Ranasinghe Premadasa in 1987, and it was renovated and declared open today after 16 years. The President's Media Division said the President held cordial discussions with the craftsmen who renovated the golden canopy. The launch of the book titled Gal Pilimaya, authored by the Anunayaka of the Askari chapter, Venerable Veduruwe Upalithera, was also launched by President Maithripala Sirisena at the Askari Gedige Rajamaha Viharaya. The head of state also attended the event to declare open the new auditorium of the Viharaya. The unveiling of the pinnacle of the newly built Chaitya in the Sri Nyanaloka Buddhist Centre in Moragaha Kandabok Kavala was also held under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena.
The Somadevi Gama Udagammanaya, constructed under the Samata 7 housing project in Palagala, Anuradhapura, was vested with the public today. The event was held under the auspices of Minister of Housing and Construction and the Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajith Premadasa. This is the 111th Udagammanaya vested with the public today. The Udagammanaya, comprising of 22 houses, was built with a cost of 22.5 million rupees. The village has access to clean drinking water and many other infrastructure facilities. Ownership deeds were also presented by the minister during the event. VCD housing loans and loans for kidney patients were granted, and self-employment equipment were also distributed by the minister. Everyone is being patriotic with the elections coming up in the near future. Why do they want to acquire presidency in 2020? To get the Minister of Housing to air condition the toilets. The villagers were safeguarded by the officials of the Civil Defence Force during the war. Who made 4,000 positions of the civil defence authorities permanent and granted them a pension scheme. I will say that Sajith Premadasa will declare open 100 Udagammanaya projects on the day in September they implement the unsuccessful initiative to topple the government. The Lankan Comic-Con 2018 took place in Colombo this weekend at the Colombo Trace Expert City.
Comic-Con brings together movie enthusiasts, comic and science fiction fans as well as cosplayers under one roof to share their creativity. Lanka Comic-Con 2018 was a trilingual event. The annual event was founded by members of the Geek Club of Sri Lanka and is now managed by the Lanka Comic-Con Trust. Producer, director, writer and Sri Lankan movie maker Sandun Seneviratne spoke about his sci-fi short film The Vikari at the Independent Filmmakers panel at the event.
The film is shot in a way which I call pseudo-documentary, which is basically, it's like a crew came down to Sri Lanka and shot a documentary on about this fictional situation that we've created. It tries to explore the deeper issues such as racism and prejudice, and it's sort of inspired by living in a multicultural society like Sri Lanka. Having lived abroad, you can hear Western countries boasting about their multiculturalism, but I feel Sri Lanka has been a multicultural society for millennia.
And that is a look at your primetime news bulletin today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Shahin Jurampati. Good night and take care.